Ladies, let me talk to you real quick, because too many of you are out here losing your peace, your sleep, and sometimes even your dignity over a man who walked out on you. He's not calling, he's not texting, and your first thought is, should I block him? Or worse, should I beg him to stay? No. Let me tell you something, blocking doesn't solve it. Begging only lowers your value. But there is something you can do that flips the whole script. When someone you care about suddenly pulls away, your first instinct is often to react emotionally. It feels like your whole world is tilting, and your mind races with questions. What did I do wrong? Why is he quiet? Did he lose interest? In those moments, panic becomes the driver, and it can push you into behaviors that you later regret, like sending 10 messages back to back, demanding answers, or even threatening to walk away just to get his attention. But the truth is, reacting emotionally rarely brings the outcome you want. Instead of pulling him closer, it usually pushes him further away. Emotional control, on the other hand, is power. When you learn to breathe, pause, and hold your ground without letting the situation break your peace, you send a clear message that your joy and stability are not in his hands. They are in yours. See, men are not drawn to chaos, desperation, or panic. They are drawn to peace, to strength, to a kind of quiet confidence that makes them curious and eventually makes them chase. When you explode emotionally, it signals to him that his silence or his pulling away is controlling your entire state of mind. That tells him two things. One, that he has too much power over you, and two, that your happiness depends on his presence. And whether he admits it or not, that kind of pressure makes a man retreat even further. But when you stay calm, when you don't chase, when you let him see that you are steady with or without his attention, the dynamic flips completely. He begins to realize that he doesn't control your world. Instead, he starts to wonder if he still has a place in it. And that's what pulls him back toward you. Emotional control doesn't mean pretending you don't care. It doesn't mean suppressing every feeling you have. What it means is managing how and when you express those emotions. Instead of crying into your phone and sending long paragraphs in the heat of the moment, you pause. You give yourself time to process what you're feeling, and you decide how to act from a place of strength instead of desperation. That shift in response changes everything, not just in relationships, but in life. Because people respect those who can hold their ground when the storm comes. They are drawn to the ones who can stay calm while everyone else is losing their composure. Let me give you an example. Imagine Sarah, a woman in her late 20s who had been dating her boyfriend for a year. Things had been going smoothly, but one week he suddenly went cold. His texts slowed down, his calls became rare, and she felt that sinking fear rise inside her. Her instinct was to call him 10 times, to ask him, "What's wrong? Are you leaving me? Did I do something?" But instead, she caught herself. She remembered that reacting emotionally had never worked for her in the past. So this time, she took a different approach. She didn't block him. She didn't beg him. She simply stopped chasing. She filled her evenings with friends, went back to the gym, and started focusing on herself again. She didn't ignore him completely, but she gave him space and didn't feed into the panic. 2 weeks later, guess who called her up out of nowhere, asking why she'd been so quiet? He noticed her absence. He noticed her peace. Her calmness made him realize that he wasn't the center of her universe. And instead of feeling pressured, he felt pulled back in. He even admitted that part of the reason he had pulled away was because he felt overwhelmed. But her calm response made him respect her more. Sarah didn't win him back by begging. She didn't win him back by blocking. She won him back by staying steady, by not letting his behavior dictate her value. That's the power of emotional control. It sends a clear, unshakable message. I am in charge of my happiness, and I refuse to hand that power over to anyone else. When you react emotionally, you hand him the keys to your peace. When you hold your ground, You keep those keys in your own pocket. And that difference is exactly what makes him notice, makes him miss you, and often makes him come running back. When a man pulls away, the most dangerous trap many women fall into is pouring all their energy outward, chasing after him, analyzing his every move, and trying to solve the puzzle of his silence. It becomes an obsession, one that drains their self-worth and leaves them feeling empty. The truth is, the more energy you pour into him, the less energy you have for yourself. And ironically, that imbalance makes him even less attracted to you. A man doesn't want to feel like he is responsible for every ounce of your happiness, because that's a heavy burden. What draws him in, what makes him sit up and notice, is when you radiate happiness that comes from within. That's why the key is not to chase him, not to beg him, not even to make him the focus. The key is to shift all that energy back into yourself. When you stop spending your days replaying old conversations in your head, stalking his social media, or waiting by the phone for a text that may never come, you free up a tremendous amount of mental and emotional space. That space can be filled with things that actually grow you. Your health, your goals, your passions, your friendships. When you invest in those areas, something remarkable happens. You start to glow differently. Your confidence rises. You begin to see your own value outside of him. And men, whether they admit it or not, are drawn like magnets to a woman who is already full, already whole, already happy without them. It's not about pretending you don't care. It's about genuinely rebuilding a life so rich and fulfilling that his presence becomes an addition, not a necessity. Think about it this way. If your whole world revolves around him, he doesn't have to work for your attention. But if your life is already beautiful and vibrant, he has to earn a place in it. That shift makes all the difference. Let's take an example. Imagine a woman named Lena. Her boyfriend of 2 years suddenly started acting distant. He stopped making plans. He took hours to respond to her texts, and his energy toward her shifted. At first, she panicked. She wanted to call him nonstop, ask him what was wrong, beg him to be the way he used to be. But then she caught herself. She realized that her entire focus had been on him for months. She had stopped going to her yoga classes. She had neglected her friendships, and she hadn't touched her dream of starting a small business. So, instead of pouring energy into him, she decided to pour it back into herself. She went back to her yoga studio 3 times a week. She called her best friends and made plans to travel. She dusted off that old notebook where she had written business ideas and began working on them again. Within a month, her energy shifted. She wasn't sitting by her phone anymore. She was too busy enjoying her life. And guess what happened? Her boyfriend noticed. He began calling more, asking her what she was doing, and even showing up at her yoga class just to surprise her. Why? Because the energy had shifted. He saw her thriving, glowing, and moving forward without him needing to carry her. He felt pulled back toward her, not because she begged, because she was magnetic. This is the secret sauce. Men love a woman who is whole without them. It's not about pushing him away. It's about pulling yourself back into balance. When your life is full, when you are investing in your health, your career, your friendships, and your passions, you automatically become more attractive. You radiate joy and peace. And that kind of energy can't be faked. It's not about trying to make him jealous or proving a point. It's about genuinely living your best life. And when you do that, he can't help but notice. Even if he doesn't come back, the best part is this: you win anyway. You end up happier, healthier, and stronger. You end up whole. The truth is, shifting your energy inward is not just about getting him to come running back. That's the bonus. The real prize is that you rediscover yourself. You remember the dreams you had before him. You rebuild the confidence you let slip away. You realize that your happiness was never supposed to depend on someone else. That realization changes the way you walk, the way you talk, and the way you carry yourself. And that's the kind of energy no man can resist. When someone you deeply care about starts pulling away, it's natural to feel the urge to either cut them off completely or to cling even tighter. Blocking feels like a way of protecting yourself, of taking back control. Begging feels like a way of holding on to what you fear you might lose. But neither of those approaches truly works. Blocking is emotional. It's a reaction born from hurt and pride. Begging is desperate. It strips you of your power and makes you seem like you don't value yourself. The real power lies in doing something far less dramatic, yet infinitely more effective: silence and consistency. Silence doesn't mean ignoring someone forever. It means choosing not to feed into the back and forth emotional chaos. It means you're strong enough to let the space exist without rushing to fill it with desperate words. Consistency means you don't waver from that strength. You don't go silent for a day and then blow up his phone the next. You remain steady, calm, and collected. That stability sends a message far louder than any words ever could. Silence is powerful because it gives the other person room to feel. When you're constantly texting, calling, or pleading, they never get a chance to actually miss you. They don't feel your absence because you never allow them to. But when you pull back quietly, when you stop chasing, they suddenly notice the shift. The calls they used to get from you aren't there anymore. The constant messages that boosted their ego have disappeared. And that silence forces them to wonder, did she stop caring? Did she move on? Did I lose her? That curiosity eats away at them in a way your words never could. Silence is not about playing games. It's about maintaining your dignity and letting the natural balance of relationships do its work. Consistency adds another layer of strength to this. If you're silent for a day, but then panic and flood his phone with messages the next day, your silence loses its power. He realizes it was just a tactic, not true composure. But when you're consistent, when you truly stand firm in your choice to remain calm and centered, he begins to take you seriously. He starts to realize that maybe he's not as secure in your attention as he thought. That's when he comes running back. Not because you begged, but because your silence unsettled him and your consistency proved your strength. Let me give you a short but excellent example. Imagine a woman named Ayesha. She was dating a man who, after a few months of excitement, suddenly pulled away. He stopped making an effort. His texts became short, and he even canceled plans at the last minute. Ayesha was hurt, but instead of begging him to explain or blocking him out of anger, she chose silence and consistency. She didn't blow up his phone with, "Why are you doing this?" messages. She didn't try to guilt him into spending time with her. She simply stopped chasing. She kept living her life, went out with friends, focused on work, stayed active on social media, but without directing anything toward him. At first, he enjoyed the space, thinking she would eventually come crawling back. But after a couple of weeks of her consistent silence, he began to feel uneasy. The messages he expected never came. The attention he was used to disappeared. He started wondering, has she moved on? Did she stop caring about me? That unease grew into curiosity, and that curiosity pushed him to reach out to her again. When he did, he wasn't met with desperation. He was met with the same calm and consistent energy she had shown all along. That made him respect her more. And ultimately, it made him chase her again. Ayesha didn't win him back with tears or anger. She didn't force him to see her worth through words. She let her silence and consistency speak for her. She created space, and in that space, he realized her value. That's the power of this principle. The truth is, silence and consistency aren't just strategies for relationships. They're life lessons. When you don't react emotionally to everything, and instead stay steady in your strength, you command respect in every area of your life. People learn not to take you for granted. They learn that your attention and presence are valuable, not something to be wasted. Blocking can be impulsive. Begging can be humiliating. But silence is strength, and consistency Consistency is proof. When you combine the two, you create an irresistible force that makes people, especially men, come running back, not because you demanded it, but because your absence spoke louder than your presence ever could. Redefining your worth is one of the most powerful steps you can take when a relationship feels uncertain. Too often, when someone we care about pulls away or stops giving us the attention we crave, we automatically lower our own value in our minds. We start to think that if only we were prettier, funnier, or more available, he would stay. That mindset is the root of desperation, and desperation is the fastest way to lose yourself. The truth is, you are the prize. A man should feel lucky to have a place in your life. The moment you shift your thinking from, I need him, to, he's blessed to have me, everything changes. Not just in the way he views you, but in the way you carry yourself. When you act like your world would collapse without him, he becomes comfortable. He relaxes because he knows you won't leave, no matter how little effort he puts in. He doesn't feel the urgency to pursue you or cherish you, because in his mind, you already made it clear you can't live without him. But when you flip the script, when you begin to radiate confidence and live as if you are whole with or without him, his perspective shifts. Suddenly, you're not someone clinging to him. You're someone he could actually lose. And men always chase what they fear losing. Redefining your worth isn't about arrogance. It's not about putting him down or playing hard to get. It's about remembering your value independent of him. It means seeing yourself as complete, valuable, and deserving of love and respect, whether or not he chooses to recognize it. That shift starts internally. When you believe you are the prize, you stop accepting breadcrumbs. You stop chasing someone who's half interested. You stop negotiating your standards just to keep him around. And the fascinating thing is, when you carry yourself with that sense of value, men pick up on it instantly. They feel it in the way you walk, in the way you speak, and in the way you refuse to beg for their time. Let me give you an example. There was a woman named Miriam. She had been dating a man for almost a year, and in the beginning, everything felt magical. But as time went on, he began to take her for granted. He stopped planning dates, stopped surprising her, and even became comfortable canceling plans at the last minute. Miriam, instead of pulling back, leaned in harder. She started rearranging her whole schedule to fit his. She showered him with affection, and she tolerated behavior that made her feel undervalued because she thought, if I just love him harder, he'll come around. But the more she clung to him, the less he appreciated her. One day, Miriam had enough. She looked at her life and realized she had slowly been shrinking herself to keep him comfortable. She remembered who she was before him, ambitious, joyful, and full of dreams. So she made a decision to redefine her worth. She stopped begging for his attention. She started setting boundaries. When he canceled a plan, she didn't sit at home waiting. She made her own plans with friends. When he sent her half-hearted texts, she didn't jump to respond immediately. She poured her energy back into her passions, her work, and her friendships. She reminded herself daily, I am the prize. If he can't see it, that's his loss. Within weeks, her energy shifted. She carried herself differently. Confident, calm, radiant, and her boyfriend noticed. Suddenly, he wasn't so relaxed anymore. He started making more of an effort. He began planning dates again and showing up in ways he hadn't before. Why? Because Miriam stopped acting like she needed him to complete her, and that made him realize he could actually lose her. He felt the fear of losing someone valuable, and that's what snapped him out of his complacency. The beauty of this story is not just that he came back stronger, but that Miriam found her strength again. Redefining your worth doesn't just shift the relationship, it transforms you. You no longer live from a place of fear, worrying about whether someone will stay. You live from a place of confidence, knowing that anyone who doesn't value you is simply making room for someone who will. So when you find yourself questioning whether you should block him or beg him, stop and ask yourself, have I forgotten my worth? The answer is almost always yes, because the moment you remember who you are and carry yourself like the prize, the whole game changes. If he's smart, he'll step up and treat you the way you deserve. If he's not, then you already know losing you is his loss, not yours. When a man pulls away and you choose not to beg, not to block, but to stand strong in silence, something powerful happens. He begins to notice the absence of your energy. He starts to miss the comfort of your attention, the sound of your ladder, the security of knowing you're always there. And very often, that absence stirs something inside him that pushes him to come back. But here's the important part. Just because he comes back doesn't mean you should immediately welcome him with open arms. The real test begins when he returns. You have to ask yourself, why is he back? Is it because he truly realized your worth? Or is it because he missed the convenience of your attention? There is a big difference between a man who values you and a man who just missed the way you made him feel about himself. That's why being prepared for the comeback, but not settling too quickly, is the key. It's tempting to let your heart take over when he returns. You might feel a rush of relief, happiness, and hope the moment his name lights up your phone again. After days or weeks of silence, you may want to believe that his return means everything has changed, but you have to pause. You have to take a step back and examine his intentions. Is he showing consistency, effort, and genuine care, or is he just coming back because his ego needed a boost? Men sometimes come back just to test if the door is still open. If you make it too easy, if you let him waltz back in without proving himself, he may slip right back into old patterns, leaving you in the same place you started. When he comes back, the way you respond matters. You don't have to be cold, but you must be cautious. Keep your standards intact. Don't drop your boundaries just because you're happy to hear from him. Instead, let him show you through actions, not just words, that he deserves a place in your life again. A man who truly values you will not just say he missed you. He will show it through consistent effort, respect, and a willingness to make things right. Let me share an example to illustrate this. There was a woman named Nadia. Her boyfriend pulled away after 6 months of dating. He grew distant, stopped calling regularly, and eventually ghosted her for weeks. Instead of chasing him or begging, Nadia chose silence. She focused on herself, invested in her work, reconnected with friends, and found joy in her own life again. After nearly 2 months, out of nowhere, he called her and said, "I miss you. I've been thinking about you. Can we meet?" Now, Nadia could have rushed back into his arms, thrilled to have him return. But instead, she remembered the pain his absence had caused and knew she had to be careful. So she agreed to meet, but she didn't rearrange her life for him. She didn't act desperate. During their meeting, she listened more than she spoke, and she watched his actions closely. At first, he was full of charm, but she didn't let that cloud her judgment. Over the next few weeks, she noticed that while he said he wanted her back, his actions didn't match his words. He canceled plans again, gave vague excuses, and wasn't consistent. Instead of ignoring the red flags, Nadia paid attention. She realized he was back only because he missed her attention, not because he had truly changed. So she let him go for good, holding her head high, proud that she didn't settle for breadcrumbs. That decision was difficult, but it protected her from going through the same cycle again. And soon after, Nadia's confidence and self-respect attracted someone else into her life. A man who didn't just come and go when it suited him, but someone who was consistent, reliable, and truly valued her worth. Had she settled too quickly for the first man, she would have missed the chance to be loved the way she deserved. The lesson here is clear. A man coming back is not the victory. The victory is you holding onto your standards when he does. Don't mistake his return for commitment. Don't confuse his nostalgia for real change. Be open, but be cautious. Let him show you over time whether he is serious or not. Your silence, your strength, and your self-focus pulled him back, but your wisdom will determine whether he gets to stay. So be prepared for the comeback. Expect it even. But when it happens, don't be so quick to hand over your heart. Guard it, value it, and let him earn it. Because a man who truly loves you won't just run back. He'll stay, he'll prove himself, and he'll never let you question your worth again. Remember, you're not chasing anyone. You're not pleading for anyone. You are the gift, the catch, the blessing. And when you stand in that truth, you won't have to go looking for him. He'll come looking for you.